guys, welcome to Cooking with Class. My name is Chef Gooch. Today we're going to be cooking one of my favorite things, and that's breakfast. Everyone always asks me what's my favorite thing to cook, and I don't have one specific dish, but I think overall breakfast foods are one of my absolute favorite things to cook. So we're going to be cooking some steak along with some hollandaise, some eggs Benedict. I've got two of my students here to help us out. To start off, let's talk about the steak. So I want to do an eggs Benedict with some steak and spinach, and then that hollandaise on top of an English muffin. And we're going to look at doing eggs a couple of different ways in case you don't want the traditional like poached eggs. And then I've also got a couple different cuts of steak here that I wanted to talk about. With a sauce like hollandaise, it's almost all butter. So it's very fatty, and that's going to pair well with a very lean cut of meat. So right here I've got some tenderloin or filet mignon. This is a pricier cut of meat, but it's very, very tender. And because there's not very much marbling in the tenderloin, it's going to pair well with that really fatty sauce. This is another steak I think that's kind of underutilized, that not a lot of people know about or know where it comes from. This is called a Delmonico. And a Delmonico steak is actually part of the chuck or the front shoulder. It's where the ribeye connects to the shoulder. So you get some of that marbling and the tenderness of a ribeye, but you get that more beefy flavor of a muscle that's been used a lot more like the shoulder. So this is a really good steak as well. I'm going to show you two different methods for cooking these. This one we're just going to do a real simple pan sear, but this one we are going to reverse sear it. So to start off, let's season that with some salt, a good amount of salt, all over the top. I've got this on a wire rack. Go ahead, Vic. A good amount. We can do both sides. Yeah, that's perfect. Flip them over, and then do the same thing on the other side. The wire rack is going to help. I'm going to put these in an oven that has a fan and convection, and that's going to help kind of dry out the outside. And this rack is going to make sure that air gets underneath, and that's going to ensure a really good crust. I've got an oven over here set at around 215 degrees, and I can't tell you an exact time. We'll be taking some temps and measuring, but we're aiming for it to hit around 115 to 125 degrees. That'll be where all this marbling and this intramuscular fat has started to melt. And then it'll take a real quick hard sear on a cast iron skillet for only about 60 seconds per side, and it'll be done. For a steak about an inch thick like this one, I imagine it'll be in the oven only about 30 to 40 minutes. I've done some really thick ones about 2 inches, and they take an hour and a half or more. If you have a probe thermometer, there's a lot of fancy ones nowadays that are wireless, or you can run the probe out of your oven and set an alarm to go off when it hits the right temp. We don't have any of those, so we're just going to check it every now and then. You'll put that in the bottom convection oven, the double door convection, okay? We'll set these aside because they're just going to be a traditional sear, so we'll do these in just a sec. Set that down there. All right, we're going to pair two different sauces with our steak. So I've got that fatty hollandaise sauce for our lean steak, and we're going to make kind of like a bright, kind of pungent sauce for our fatty steak, and that's one of my all-time favorites, chimichurri. So let's start with the chimichurri. We're going to do about equal parts cilantro and parsley. And if you guys will just finely mince that up, okay? So get started. Yeah, you can take and just right about where it's wrapped, you can just cut off everything above that right there, and then finely mince everything. If you're really worried, you can go through and pick clean, but a little bit of stem is going to be fine. The stems kind of add like a bright punch of flavor, and this chimichurri has in it a little bit of lemon juice, some red wine vinegar, and some raw fresh garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper, and then for a little bit of heat, you can either use like a fresh chili, like a jalapeno, but I really like it with some red chili flakes. So that's what we're going to be doing. And it's got to be super fine. So get in there. Yeah, get your technique going with your hand like on the back of the knife, and you should be able to just rock this pretty well. Throw that in there. Yeah. Make sure you got your claw so you don't slice those fingers off, okay? A lot of parsley on there. We might not use all the parsley. I like to go about an equal ratio of these two. There's a lot of different variations on chimichurri. I've used different vegetable tops like carrot greens, parsley, cilantro. Some recipes call for fresh oregano or even marjoram. But the cilantro parsley mixture is one of my favorites. You get the lemony notes from the parsley, and it just works really well with that sort of fatty steak. Let me show you guys a trick real quick, okay? So take it, and you got the right idea, but get your grip, get your hand on the back, and then just slide it back together. Okay, keep doing that. And this is a real rough chimichurri, more rustic by doing it by hand. You can put all of the ingredients into a food processor, almost like you would pesto, and you'll end up with that real creamy version. But I just think this version looks really nice when we spoon it on top of a steak, and we get to practice our knife skills. That's probably good on this one. She had a lot more. We're gonna throw it into this bowl right here, okay? And Johnny, if you would do me a favor, I had some other Delmonico steaks that I started earlier. If you'll check the temp on them in that bottom convection oven and just let me know what they are.
45, right?
Huh? No, we're looking for about 115 to 125. They're not gonna be done cooking. There we go, like that right there in the middle, that's like the perfect consistency that we're looking for. You just got a little bit more than he did. All right, so I've got our other ingredients here. I think that's looking good. Go ahead and put, yeah, not quite all of that. That's perfect right there. So this is a lot. This is a lot of chimichurri, and this stuff will last forever in your refrigerator. Again, it's got the oil, and the vinegar is going to keep it act as a preservative. It's going to be good for weeks in the fridge. Let's see, Johnny, let's just do a splash of that. We'll do yeah, about a tablespoon worth, a little bit more. There we go, perfect. Might have been 2 tablespoons. And then we'll do about a tablespoon of crushed red pepper flakes. Yeah, a little bit more. And you can just adjust this as you go. We'll get some salt in there. We'll get some pepper in there. And then grab a spoon. Here you go. Start stirring that up. And while she stirs, I'm just gonna add some olive oil. We're just looking for it to be saucy, sauce consistency. Yeah, so it's still pretty dry. There's a lot of veggies, a lot of herbs. Keep going, keep going. It's almost a cup of oil. And we're not trying to like emulsify this or anything like that. It's just a chunky sauce. And that looks good right there. We'll get a couple of spoons. I'll get another spoon. Give this just a little tasty if it needs any different seasoning. It needs a little bit of brightness, so we'll do a little bit of lemon juice. And I totally forgot to add the garlic. So squeeze that in there. And go ahead and finely mince that garlic as well. Perfect. Oh, we dropped a lot of seeds in there. Can we grab those? That's good. Just get those seeds out. And so we'll set that aside, and then we'll get cleaned up and get started on our next sauce. All right, so next up we're gonna make our hollandaise. Traditionally, hollandaise is made with egg yolks, clarified butter. You would do it over a double boiler so that the only heat source is that steam. You can't overcook it. You have to whisk. You gotta have like 3 or 4 hands to do it all. And it can be a little intimidating. It easily breaks or separates. My favorite tool to use to make hollandaise is an immersion blender. So this, we can just stick it right into a container. It makes it really, really fast, really easy. And you honestly don't even have to like skim your butter. You can just have melted butter and it works just fine. We're gonna use about 4 ounces of melted butter is all we need. And then we need 2 egg yolks. So can you separate those 2 eggs? Let's put the yolks in here. And Johnny, we only need about a teaspoon's worth of lemon juice. So if you could put a teaspoon worth of lemon juice in there as well. No, I mean, you can just kind of do it like this, and that way the seeds don't fall in. We only need about a teaspoon. Yeah, just squeeze. Keep going a little bit more. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, grab that blender. Go ahead, start blending. High speed on the top one. And you might have to tilt it a little bit to get it to pick up. And we're just gonna slowly stream in this melted butter. Just keep going. Tilt it a little bit this way. Put it down. Come on, get in the bottom. There you go. We're gonna need just a splash of water. You grab me just like a little ramekin with about 1 or 2 teaspoons of water to thin it out. But you can see the blender picked it up. And sometimes what you can do with this blender, just move it around so that you can see it, like, you know that the blade is picking it all up. And now I asked Johnny to get some water, but it looks like the right consistency even without adding that water. So only use that if necessary. Season this with just a little bit of salt, and traditionally it's also seasoned with a pinch, a tiny, tiny pinch of cayenne. If you don't have that, you can also use paprika. You don't want it to be spicy. We're not looking for that. It's just a tiny little bit. Okay, let's test that really quick and see for seasoning and if it's the right consistency. We're looking for what we call nappe, where it coats the back of a spoon, just like that. If you draw your finger through and it doesn't run, is it running? No. So that's it right there. Needs just a little more salt. And honestly, it needs just a splash more acid. If you don't have some citrus on hand, you can also use like some vinegar. I've got some white wine vinegar right here. Just a little bit of that. Blend it up one more time. Make sure your butter is nice and hot so that it cooks those egg yolks. And now you want to put this somewhere where it's nice and warm so that it doesn't separate. So go set this kind of up there on that oven on top of the stove, the pizza oven, and it'll stay warm. All right, let's get this cleaned up and we'll start cooking our steaks. All right, we've got some English muffins here that we picked up at the store. We're gonna cut these in half, give them a little brush with some of that melted butter and toast them on our griddle. And then once these are toasted, I'll turn the heat up on the griddle and we'll get ready to cook our steaks. Go ahead, guys. You don't have to use a serrated knife. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Don't cut your thumb on the end there. All right, we are going to just griddle these real fast. So just, real quick, brush them with some butter, slap them down. They won't take very long. Griddle's pretty hot. Go ahead, get them all on there. This one should already be ready. Yeah, get underneath it. Let's see how it looks. Oh yeah, just a real quick toast, warm them up. Here you go, here's some more. That's more than enough, but. Yeah, grab those last two. No, yeah, those two. Then he'll start over and do 6 more. Yeah, those are looking great. All right, so we've got this really nice cast iron griddle right here getting soaring really hot. It's been on about medium to medium high heat. Yeah, I can only hold my hand there for about 3-4 seconds. That cast iron is gonna help retain that heat so when we add the steaks, keep it from cooling off. I'm gonna give these a good spray. This is our tenderloin. Go ahead and season those with a little salt. I don't like to put pepper on just yet because sometimes it'll burn because that pan is so hot, but salt won't. All right, pick those up and then salt side down. And put them both next to each other right there. And we wanna use, I like a flat, seared steak when there's no bone. When there's a bone, as the meat shrinks, the bone stays the same size, so the meat will shrink away and you don't get that good caramelization. And so if I have a steak or a piece of meat with the bone in, I like to cook that on the grill because you have that heat coming through the gaps of the grill grates. So you'll still get a good sear. But when I don't have a bone, I like to use a cast iron skillet. We're gonna let these two go about 3 to 4 minutes per side. Traditionally, beef tenderloin is served rare to medium rare. We can go ahead and season this side of it as well. And then let's grab you wanna grab those Delmonicos and bring them over here? And try and go a little higher so it gets like spread out, you know what I mean? So that salt goes all over the steak. So you can see the salt kind of sunk in. It dried a little bit of the moisture out. They're really dry on the top. Except for where some of the salt was, but that's okay. We don't need to season these, but we will still hit them with a little pan spray, make sure they don't stick. And let's just slap both of those down on the other side. Okay. Same thing, just a little bit of pressure, make sure we got that good connection, and we'll get a good crust. These are only going to take about 60 seconds per side, just because they've already been cooked kind of through. All right, we're going to let these steaks cook, like I said, about a minute per side, 4 minutes per side. And then while they're resting, we'll get started talking about 3 different variations of eggs. So remember, when we're cooking a piece of meat, don't try and mess with it too much, but if you go to move it and it slides, it's ready. It's ready to be turned. Right, so we got a really good sear on there. Sometimes you can get these fillets and they're super thick and you have to cook them on more than 2 sides, but these I think are gonna be fine. These have been going for a minute per side. Oh, look at that crust. Looks great. Looking good. You can see these Delmonicos are super tender, and that reverse sear has them almost like falling apart, which is great. So if you look, we can see that band really rare in the middle. So we are gonna go ahead and just kind of rotate these a little bit. I'll stand them up and try and get the sides. All right, so our steaks are resting. While that's going on, you can get your eggs going. We're gonna talk about a couple of different ways to cook eggs. The traditional way on Eggs Benedict is poached, which is where you drop them into simmering water. I like to add a little bit of acid to that water. We've got a nice simmer here. We had it boiling next to the griddle, but now it's just a nice simmer. The other thing you wanna do is you wanna add these eggs to the simmering water one at a time and slowly. You don't want to crack them straight into the water. I'm going to crack them into some little ramekins first. Make sure my yolk doesn't break. And there we go. So we've got 2. I'm just going to very slowly, I'm going to almost dip it into the water and then just let it kind of glide in. Like that right there. Do the same thing with the other one. All right, set those aside. And those will take about 60 seconds to 2 minutes. And then we've got a slotted spoon to pull them out and a plate lined with some paper towels. So sometimes you can do a lot of these at once. Just get you a big plate and just keep dropping them in, scooping them out and letting them rest. Get some of that, some of the egg white is really thin, and we'll get that removed. It'll kind of stay in the water, and we'll let them drain on some paper towels before we're ready to plate them up. All right, Johnny, let's check those eggs. So just kind of move the water around a little bit, scoop up underneath one. We can see that the white is still a little bit soft in there, so just let them keep going. Sometimes you can skim away some of that really thin egg white that's kind of floating on the top or that's not connected to the main part of the egg, and just get rid of it. Just clean up that water a little bit. All right, Johnny, let's check those eggs. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little more firm. It's still not firm, it's still really soft. We'll get a soft, runny yolk. So we'll set those aside. Oh yeah, that looks great. And some good poached eggs. All right, let's set this aside and we'll talk about our nonstick skillets. All right, before we cook some more eggs, a couple of different ways. I wanted to talk about our nonstick skillets. And so when you're cooking eggs or sometimes fish, there's a couple of different meats that you might cook. It's really important to use the right pan. I have a variety of nonstick skillets right here, and they kind of range from the cheapest to the most expensive. These right here are really thin, and they're like aluminum pans that are coated in Teflon. That Teflon, you cannot use metal. As soon as you scratch these, they become stick instead of non-stick. So they require a lot of care. And then because the pan is so thin, there's certain things you just wouldn't cook. Like you would never do a steak in here. You're not gonna get that same level of crust like we did on a cast iron skillet. So these are cheap, but as soon as you scratch them, they're kind of garbage. That Teflon coating continues to scratch off, and it can even get into your food. This one is also Teflon coated, but it's just a heavier duty pan. This one, I believe, is a mixture of two different metals, and then it's still Teflon coated. It's a little bit better, it holds the heat better. Again, it's still got that Teflon coating. These are about $10 to $15 a pan. These are considerably different. These have a stainless steel core, and they're not Teflon coated. So these pans, there's different brands that make them, but these right here are about $40 a pan, depending on the size. I think this one was 30 and the bigger one was 40. So they're much more expensive. However, you can use metal tools. You're at less of a risk of scratching. Just out of habit, I still don't use metal. I only use rubber, plastic, wood, but these hold heat really, really well. And they just make for really nice eggs. It's harder to mess up your eggs and to break a yolk. We're gonna do two different eggs. The first one is scrambled. Everybody knows how to make scrambled eggs, and we're not gonna make scrambled eggs. We're going to do small curd scramble. These require a little more labor, but you get this real creamy, textured egg that is, it's honestly my favorite. It goes so good anytime it's on top of any sort of bread, whether it's toast, English muffins, anything like that. All right, so to get started on this small curd egg, we got about 4 eggs right here. Go ahead, start scrambling those. And then we're gonna add a little bit of butter in there. That's a lot of butter. Just scramble that up. That's good. Johnny, we could add a little bit of pan spray. It doesn't take very much. And what we're gonna do is we're never gonna stop touching the pan. So traditional scrambled eggs, you get that big curd, big fluffy pieces. We don't want that. We're just gonna constantly be stirring, and we're going to take them off heat and back on heat as well. Go ahead, start stirring. And you're just looking to scrape the bottom and to just keep them moving, keep them moving. I would go for about a minute, and then we take it off heat for about 30 seconds. You'll see steam escape. We put them back on the heat, and we just keep doing this over and over, okay? Go ahead and pull them off heat for a sec. You can just slide it over this way. That way you're not trying to hold that pan in the air. Just slide it over to another empty burner and keep going, yeah. And so what I like to do with this little spatula is I'll shake the pan a little bit as well. And you can see we have really small curds forming and a lot of steam escape when we pull it off the heat. We put it back on the heat and we just keep going, Johnny, keep going. What's really important with these eggs is a gentle cooking process. I have some friends who call them chef eggs because they're a little fancier and they require a lot more work. Some chefs cook these over a pot of boiling water just so that you don't get too much heat. I like to just do the on and off method, and then at the end we're gonna stop the cooking process. A lot of our food, when we take it off the heat, it has what we call carryover cooking. Our steaks, we pull them a little early, we let them carry over cook to hit the right temp off the heat. And so when you do custards, like we've made ice cream before. What was that last step when we pulled the custard off the heat? What do we do? What do we add? Do you remember?
Salt?
No. I mean, yes, but remember we had heavy cream in an ice bath to stop the cooking process. And we're kind of going to do something similar here. I've got some crema, but you can use any sort of like sour cream or Mexican crema, and just a little bit, it doesn't take very much. We're gonna pour it into the eggs at the end, and it'll stop that cooking process. So these are looking really close. Get them back over there. Another thing we haven't done is salt these yet, because the salt will kind of pull the moisture out, and it just makes them cook a little bit different. If you salt them early, there's nothing wrong with that. They're not gonna be bad or anything. But that's looking really good. We grabbed the salt and pepper. We left it over by the steaks. That's looking really good. We're almost there. You can still see it's a little glossy, and so they're not quite cooked all the way yet. So we want them to be a little more matte in shine, and then we'll add that little bit of crema, and it will make them glossy again and ready to eat. All right, we're ready to do our last egg demonstration. So we've done poached, we've done the soft scramble or small curd, and this last one is going to be a basted egg. Now everybody knows how to do a fried egg or over easy, over medium, over hard, but a basted egg is really fun and adds a lot of flavor to your egg. You can use any sort of fat. It's common to use the fat from the other protein you're cooking for breakfast, like bacon grease or sausage, but I'm going to show you how to do it with olive oil. It makes for a really fun flavor on your egg to use to baste it with a little bit of olive oil. So a healthy amount of olive oil goes into this pan. And all we're looking to do is we're going to baste. So we're just going to spoon it back on top of the egg. We never flip this egg. You can also use a spatula and kind of fling the oil onto the egg. So you can like kind of do like this and get it on top of it, okay? Have you ever done an egg like this before? You have? Good, good. All right, so we got our pan on kind of like medium-high heat here. I think it's about ready. We'll just watch and see. Yeah, it's good. All right, so let that go for a minute. I wouldn't use butter for this, for a basted egg. Do you want a spoon or you want to use that spatula? Yeah. And so again, because we have these special pans, we can use a metal utensil in here a little bit, and we don't have to worry about it scratching that Teflon off, because these are a nicer pan. So go ahead, tilt it up and start basting the top. Just like that. Again, they require a little more work than our traditional like scramble or just simple fried egg, but sometimes you want to take that extra step, make it a little more special. So that looks good, except for that cut. And then let's do one of these as well. So the Delmonico, again, we want to go against the grain. This one is kind of like falling apart in a couple of places, and honestly that's fine. We'll just use that natural delineation to carve it. So now you can see the muscle fibers running this direction from here to here. So let's turn it this way, and we'll cut against that grain like this. Oh, this one is like butter. All right, so let's start off and plate a couple of these with our chimichurri. So we're just gonna take, so for the chimichurri, we want to use the Delmonico steak, which is a little fattier. So we'll take a few pieces of that, and we'll just spread it out. I'm just gonna throw it underneath this steak. Oh yeah. A poached egg up here. And then we'll also do our, the basted egg as well. And then we'll take that delicious chimichurri and just kind of drizzle it right over the top there. That looks awesome, right? We talked about our nonstick skillets. We've got eggs 3 different ways, 2 different kinds of steak for some egg, a little twist on an eggs Benedict. I hope you guys love breakfast as much as me. Thanks for gorging with Gooch.
This has been a production of the students and staff at Lubbock ISD.